She is the author of the book, Jesus Is My Thesis. And she is a Bible study teacher and writer. She earned her bachelor's degree in psychology with a concentration in biblical studies in 2008. And she has 3 grown children. Hi, Sallie. How you doing?
Hi, Tim. I'm fine. How are you? Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. John's here with me.
Hi, John.
Hi, Sallie.
Hey, I got 3 grown children. You got 3 grown children? I got 3. How many grown children you got, John?
I think about that for just a second. I've got 9, so let's see.
Wow.
How about 6?
I know you can. How many? You got 3, and I got 3, and John's got 3 beyond both of us combined.
Yeah. Oh
He's
my
a
goodness.
winner.
I'm a winner.
Yeah, you win, John. We give up.
What prize do I get? No, I'm just kidding.
You know, that's a funny expression, grown children, though.
Mm-hmm, it is.
Think about it. 3 grown children. I guess you never quit calling them your children, do you?
No.
Yeah. Well, Sallie, tell us about your book called Jesus Is My Thesis. What is this about?
Well, thank you so much. It was about my experience going to college as an adult. I dropped out when I was younger, made a lot of mistakes when I was a young person, but fortunately, God takes people who have made a lot of mistakes. But I was working full-time and realized my need for a college degree, and so I just thought if I ever get the opportunity to return to college, I will definitely do it. And God in His grace gave me that opportunity when I was right around 30 years old. I went back to school, and I was so excited to go to college and to see what all these college graduates knew that I didn't know. And at first it was great, but after I only took 1 or 2 classes at a time, being a mom and a wife and everything. But about halfway through the experience, which took me 9 years on that, taking so few classes. But anyway, about halfway through, I transferred from a private school to a public university and just became aware of a lot of things that they were teaching that I disagreed with. But I'd been in church my whole life, but I really didn't know what the Bible said. And I think a lot of people who call themselves Christians and have grown up in church are in that same position. You know, they become faced with college professors who are teaching ideas that are opposite their beliefs, but they don't know how to defend their faith in that environment. And that's really what happened when I got into a class where a lesbian activist was supposedly teaching philosophy, but she was really recruiting homosexuals, and that's what really rocked my world and caused me to have to learn the Bible.
What is the what you're saying is true, and everybody knows this. It's not a secret that on most college campuses today, the professors are politically liberal, and they're also, in many respects, if they're religious at all, they're religiously liberal, but most of them are not religious at all. But why do you think that is? Is this is professorships in college? Is that just draw people who are more liberal, more secular in their thinking? Any particular reason on why this is?
That's a good question, and I actually considered that quite a bit when I was researching this issue. And what I believe what has happened over time is there are professors who are on search committees who hire other professors, and they want like-minded individuals.
Gotcha. Just like anything else.
Yeah.
Quite frankly.
It is like that, but what I really noticed in the university is, you know, they don't mind. If you want to talk about Hinduism, or if you want to talk about Buddhism or Islam, you want to talk about anything, I call it the ABC of college, anything but Christ. If you want to talk about Christ, they want you to go ahead and go somewhere else.
Yeah, you know, that's funny because the people who oftentimes, not just on college campuses, but in journalism too, they pride themselves on promoting diversity, and yet, except for Christians, and that's when their tolerance ends. It's
so true, and it's astonishing how In a college environment, it's not as astonishing. You wonder how people can sit there and hear a person say, I'm so open-minded, I'm so tolerant, but you see anything that's about Christ or Christianity or the Bible raised, and they start backing up, and they shut it down right away. They have methods of doing that. But in a college classroom, grades are at stake, so they do have a little more leverage there than maybe in the public square with the media.
Sallie Hite McDaniel is our guest. Her book is called Is My Thesis. I want to get back to what we were just talking about in just a moment, but I want you to tell people, if they buy your book, what are they getting?
I believe that one thing, they will hear the truth, because I examined the truths of what I was learning in college against what the Bible said, and I knew what I was learning in college. They were teaching things like you're a good person and man is getting better and better, but any of us can watch the evening news and see that's not true. And when I read the Bible and it talks about man is sinful and no one is without sin, everyone falls short of the glory of God, I knew that was true about me, and I knew I was born that way because I did things that were wrong when I was about 2 years old, and my parents were trying to teach me the opposite. And so I knew that when a person reads the truth, it rings true. Truth corresponds to reality. But I want people to know that they now need to examine what's being taught to them by people. Even if a person is a tenured professor, you still need to examine what he or she is saying and examine it against the truth of the Bible, because not everyone who is in an authoritative position is telling you the truth.
I believe, whether someone goes to a Christian university, and oftentimes you got to watch that may be just a title only, but they may be just as bad off as any, quote, secular university. But where people go to college or their university experience is up to each individual. You know what I'm saying? I don't really criticize if they, people for that decision. However, I told my kids, and mine are, two of them are graduated from college, and one of them's in college right now, that it's good to have your faith challenged. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? You need to think. You need to be able to defend your faith. Now, I'm not advocating or believe that in what you're talking about, Sallie, where professors are hostile, intentionally hostile just because someone is a Christian in their class and they want to mock their beliefs. I don't believe in that. I wish that wouldn't happen, but I'm just saying that it's healthy for us, not only as students in college, but also as adults, to be able to defend the faith. And go ahead, talk about that if you would.
Well, I completely agree with what you're saying, and that is the root of the problem that I had in that environment, because my grandfather was a Southern Baptist minister. Like I said, now he retired when I was 10 years old, so I didn't have a huge amount of training up to that point, but I was in church my entire life, and when I was very young, even if another person wasn't a Christian, that person would still respect the fact that you were one. But
right.
Nowadays, that's not the case, and you do have to know how to defend your beliefs, because the atheists who are reigning in a lot of these colleges, they know the trigger points to push. But the sad thing is, a lot of times growing up in church, that is your world, is, you outside of school, and you may even go to a Christian school, and then you go to church. And if you're not out in the world,
right.
You're not experiencing this, and we are called to go to the world.
I know, and a lot of parents shelter their kids from the world to a degree that it's unhealthy, in my opinion, because then when they get out, and they do it with good intentions, but then when they get ready to go out, then when they have to go out into the real world, it's a shocking experience for them, because they've been sheltered in their little Christian culture. You know what I'm saying? And that's a balancing act. It's hard to know sometimes what the right thing to do is in that regard. But I'm just saying, you need to have your kids ready to go out into the, quote, real world. And go ahead.
You do, because what happens at that same time, when a person reaches the age of 18 to 22, he or she is deciding for himself or herself, what do I believe? They're kids that age, they're on the threshold of, I am an adult, I'm, making decisions for myself. And when a person is thrust into a world where everyone is teaching something opposite of what he learned at home and what he learned in church, then he has to decide, okay, who am I supposed to trust here? And, a lot of times children are rebellious at that age, so, it's kind of like anything but Christ. There's an age, ABP, anything but parents, I know I listened to my grandparents a lot of times more than I listened to my parents when I was at a rebellious stage of my life. Fortunately, they weren't steering me in the wrong direction, but I think that plays into it as well, because you think, oh, this is a whole new world that I didn't know anything about, and it's quite enticing, especially when they tell me I can do whatever I want and not worry about any penalty for it, and no one's going to tell me it's wrong.
Yeah, we're talking to Sallie Hite McDaniel, and she's the author of Jesus, Is My Thesis. As a single mother working in a small insurance agency, Sallie promised herself that if given the opportunity, she would return. Yes, I am reading, people, if you're wondering. I am reading. She would, and I can read. I went to school. She would return to school and complete her college education. That opportunity came in 1998 when McDaniel enrolled at Meredith College in North Carolina. It was to be an experience that would change her life forever. Did anything in particular happen to you when you were going to Meredith College in North Carolina?
Well, Meredith was the first school I attended. Fortunately, I kept a lot of my books and notebooks so I could refer back to them, because when I went to Meredith, I still had not learned the Bible yet. I didn't learn that until I left and went to the public university, and I learned the Bible taking distance learning classes through Liberty University. That's what really helped me a lot. But at Meredith, when I looked back at a class I had there, it was a religion class. And they taught Julius Wellhausen's theory that basically said Moses didn't write the first 5 books of the Bible. And the point of that is it's a process by which they question pretty much everything in the Bible, beginning with the authors. And they question the veracity of the Bible and suggest, maybe parts of it are true. It has some good moral values. But, you shouldn't necessarily trust all of it. And that's very problematic, because then it's up to you to decide which part is true. And all of it's true. And Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. And he is the truth, and the Bible is his book. And so it's just a very common way that it's taught. It's taught the same way by Bart Ehrman in Chapel Hill. And he'll tell you that his goal is to turn you away from Christianity if you come into his class as a Christian.
Why do you think, maybe not just on college campuses, but I've talked to people like Dr. Alex McFarland and Frank Turek, who was on with us recently. We did a special on his book, I Don't Have Enough Faith to Be an Atheist. Why do you think that atheists are hostile to Christianity? The reason I ask that is, if you think about it in the natural, or just logically, if you're an atheist, you don't believe God exists, okay? So if you don't believe God exists, God cannot give us orders or standards or morality or the 10 Commandments, for example. Why do you care whether somebody else does believe in that? Because they're believing in Santa Claus. I don't go around finding people, challenging people's belief in Santa Claus. I just think you're nuts. You know what I'm saying? And if you want to believe in Santa Claus, believe in Santa Claus, but it doesn't bother me. You know what I'm saying? So I don't understand. What is the hostility atheists have for people who believe in a God that they don't even believe exists?
Tim, that is an excellent question. If you don't believe in Santa Claus, you don't have to feel threatened in any way by your disbelief.
Right.
But I think 2 places in the Bible tell us that. The first one is Romans chapter 1, because in Romans chapter 1 it explains how God has revealed himself through his creation. So everyone is born with a knowledge of God, and it says, people who are atheists, they're suppressing the truth. But the other place, and this is something I really thought about a lot, is the motivation behind an atheist so-called mission in life. And I think it's in John 3:19 and 20, where it says, and this is the condemnation, that the light has come into the world, and men loved darkness rather than light, because their deeds were evil. For everyone practicing evil hates the light and does not come to the light, lest his deeds should be exposed. So men love the darkness and hate the light, and Christians have the Holy Spirit living in them. They have the right light of the gospel in them, and that reflects poorly on atheism.
Okay. You know, the Bible also says the fool says in his heart there is no God.
Mm-hmm.
The fool says in his heart there is no God.